The first thing I think is that's worth discussing, and feel free to jump in the comments, is that there are actually no new chapters. One of the things that bothers me a lot, and I've mentioned this a couple times, I've even mentioned it in some of my latest books, is when people say that chapter is closed, it's a new chapter, it's a new beginning, the past is gone, we're going to start again. I don't believe in that. I've never believed in that. Even when I was a kid, I didn't go for that. And I must have been really young when I discovered that. Wherever you go, there you are. There are no new chapters. The baggage, the challenges, the trauma, which he talks a lot about trauma, which is where the emotional intelligence thing comes from. All that comes with us, no matter what we're doing. And so the key part is to understand and accept that. You don't have to like it. You might not want to take your past with you. I get it. I got some stuff back there too that I'd rather leave behind. But the fact is that you're going to carry that with you. Once you understand that, then it becomes a lot easier. And that comes down to two, I found, basic things. Let me go ahead and take the thing off here so I can, I'm sure on my South Jersey roots, suddenly my hands are going. So in there not being no new chapters, my triple negatives are killing it today. There being no new chapters. Number one, it's about you embracing the past. What actually happened? Until you face the past, then you don't know what stuff you might be processing, what stuff might actually be holding you back. You don't know. It's unclear. You don't know what's happening with that. So you have to go back into the past and dig into that and say, okay, what exactly happened? What are my feelings about that? What is that trauma? Oh, and then you start to connect the dots and be like, oh, I don't trust these kind of people because it reminds me of this thing that happened once when I was a kid. I'm still carrying that with me. And then it becomes find the gems. What stuff do you want to carry with you? And what stuff don't you want to carry with you? What stuff do you want to carry with you? What stuff don't you want to carry with you? So number one, as far as there being no new chapters, first you have to embrace the past. You have to face it. We tend to put things away. That's just human nature. But that stuff doesn't go away. As I talked about in a previous episode, I'll throw the link below. When it has to do with our shadow and those things that we don't want to look at, it actually can come down to it being at the wheel. There are things in our past that we haven't faced yet, but they're actually subconsciously, shout out to Carl Jung, are helping us make decisions or not helping us make decisions in our current life. In other words, you have to go backwards to go forwards. And the second part is to find out what the gems are. There might be a lesson from that family member that created so much trauma for you, but there could be one gem in there. You don't have to forgive them per se, but that doesn't mean that they are wrong all the time, right? A broken clock is right 2 times a day. When it comes to Kendrick Lamar, that begins with the first album, Good Kid, Mad City. And it's literally about his childhood. I want to say he was probably very early 20s when this came out. It's probably 23, 24. I got a few years on him, so I'm trying to do the math backwards. But, he's very young. And he's talking about, again, it says it in the title, him being a kid with good intentions, a level head, as I used to say back in my day, but being in an environment with violence, sex, drugs, robbery, police brutality, murder. Again, this is Compton, and we have to go back to the 1990s to talk about his childhood. He looks at it unflinchingly, and he talks about his part in it and those insights that he got from the life on the street, for lack of a better term. It's like the good and the bad. It reminds me a lot of, if you all have seen the movie Friday, which actually takes place in Compton as well, one of my favorite movies, hilarious comedy, particularly if you understand the inner city. I'm not from the inner city, but my family is. Shout out to Camden, New Jersey. And so when I was growing up, and they had me in the burbs, they had me in some of the cities, but whenever it was summertime or even during Thanksgiving or whatever, I was in Camden. And so I'm familiar with those environments. My cousins are from the environment. Shout out to all of y'all. I love y'all. I miss y'all. I have to get back to the East Coast soon. So when I saw Friday, I was like, oh, I was on the East Coast. It's a West Coast movie, but I was like, this seems familiar. And all this stuff was funny because I remember some of that from my childhood and or living vicariously or being really connected to my closest cousins and my uncles and all the other stuff and seeing that kind of energy, even through my mother, who was raised there. A thing like Friday couldn't have happened unless Ice Cube and F. Gary Gray and other writers and creators involved, Chris Tucker, didn't see the humorous side and the beauty of being in a poor, rough neighborhood. But it's it's one of the funniest movies I've ever seen to this day. But you got to accept all that to actually find the humor in it. That's the gem. And Good Kid, Mad City has some very dark tracks, and also has some skits on there, other things that are ridiculously funny. This album came out, I want to say, 15 years ago. I can look it up. You guys can look it up. You're more than welcome to. But I think it came out 15 years ago, and it still is relevant today. This is, again, a kid, a very young adult, who's making peace with his past. The way it's done is masterful, mostly because he takes responsibility for the chaos that he created. And he also understands, as far as Mad City, that it's the entire environment and every individual in it who's creating the chaos, because a lot of them are in a place of pain. My recommended track on here would be Dying of Thirst, Don't Forget About Me. I think that's the second half of it. It's an 8 to 9 minute masterpiece. I don't think there's an official video for it, but be sure and check it out if you are going to grab his album. If you want more context, and you might be like, Damon, I don't know what you're talking about as far as like the Black experience and being in the hood and all this other stuff, that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. You know, as my family and I joke about, you know, my friends and family are like a Benetton ad. Shout out to you if you remember the Benetton ads, where they're all from all over the place. Again, I have immigrants in my family, I got folks from other places, whatever. So you might not understand the experience. If you want to go deeper, I highly recommend the book Black Food by Bryant Terry. Shout out to Bryant. I hope you're doing fantastic. It's such a big book. This is a heavy book. This is probably 6 pounds. Woo! It's a big book. It's a big book. It's all about the African-American experience, and a lot of it is connected to nourishment, whether it's the nourishment of emotions, the nourishment, obviously, of food. Bryant is actually a decorated chef. I've known him for years, so it's related to food as well. You see the plantains, and man, it's making me hungry. I want to say it's Jamaican food. Woo! Yeah, shout out to Ray and nephew. I got some stories, but like this talks about all those different things, all different essays. I want to say probably, well, all the names are right here, but if you look closely, my name is on there. You can freeze it if you like. I actually wrote one of the essays in here, and it's talking about Black male masculinity and how we are vulnerable in certain ways, and those ways that I really want to pass on, or at least give the blueprint for my 2 sons who are Black and brown. My sons are Black, African American, and they're also Hindi, specifically Gujarati. Those are my kids. What did I want to pass on to them? That's what the essay is about. All of them have a very similar energy. So if you want to understand a lot of stuff he's talking about in Good Kid, Mad City, and whether we're urban/suburban kid like I am, or it's more like Kendrick's experience where it's like he grew up completely in the hood, as we call it, you know, or ends up being a blend of all of them, which a lot of us are. As I said, there's a lot of slashes in there. Then this will help you put your arms around that experience. And the emotional intelligence component, again, is understanding that there are new chapters. So when my hands start moving all over the place, when I get really excited, when I get loud, which I'm generally not a loud person, but when I get loud, respectfully, that's South Jersey. That's Camden. Shout out to Camden. I will give the cross streets, but I want to give my family's info out. But like that corner, like that's straight from that corner. And that's the energy that's coming from there. That came from when I was a little kid. I haven't lived in Camden for a very long time, but that energy is still there because that's part of my childhood. Just as much as with some of the conflict and issues that Kendrick has coming up recently, and all the music's come up to address those things. Again, you just do a Google search and get way deeper into this. That energy from Compton is coming out. But if he didn't make peace and realize that there were no new chapters, he'd be really confused right now, which frankly, some artists are really confused right now as far as trying to show their true selves, but not being sure who that true self is. If you don't know who your true self is, then that might mean that you're running away from that past, or you're not accepting that past that helped inform who you are. That is my sermon on that. One of the reasons why I'm doing the live today, there's two reasons. One of them, shout out to Making Media Matter. We actually had a brief conversation on one of the recent videos I did about Kendrick's emotional intelligence. Very short video. I have the link right below. It's literally 45 seconds. And they replied and they were like, hey, this is actually similar to a video I was working on, but I was going to do a long form video talking about Kendrick and how he was handling different things with the stresses and with the creativity that's coming out of being in these stressful positions. And I was like, I can't wait to see it. And it came out and they killed it. So be sure and check out their video. Again, it's Making Media Matter. So good connecting with you. I'm loving your work. Keep doing your thing. I subscribed, so, shout out to them. All right, so what we're talking about today is Kendrick Lamar's emotional intelligence power, how we can look at his discography and better understand, only 4 albums, better understand our own emotional intelligence and what we can gain from it. Again, it's Damon Brown, entrepreneurial coach. I keep wanting to say entrepreneurial coach to the stars. There are some stars out there. You're all stars, but there are some popular people out there that are, that I'm happy, proud to be behind. But it's more a saying from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Such and such from the stars. So I'm not gassed up over here. But you guys are all great. I love coaching y'all. If you want to coach with me, go and check it out. We'll go ahead and set up a session and see if we can work together. Come to you every Wednesday at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. You subscribe for free, and my complete collection is out. You can watch it right now at bringingworth.tv after our conversation is done, if you please.